Hey, good evening, everybody. It is Steve with Real Progressives. I want to talk about the concept of being a net importer or a net exporter and which is better. Which one would you rather the United States be? And, you know, it sucks to understand economics. It really does on so many levels because you're outnumbered 100 to 1 by people who don't understand it. And what ends up happening invariably is that when you try and tell them something that violates the paradigm that they have raised themselves on believing, that at some point in time, you're just going to end up having to walk away from the situation. And this is no different when it comes to import versus export. Let me explain this to you. First things first, hi, Litha. First things first, countries really don't have a big say-so in whether they are ultimately a net importer or a net exporter. The rest of the world has a tremendous amount of say-so in whether you're a net importer or a net exporter. So within the confines of what we can control, let's talk about that for a minute. So as Warren Mosler often talks about, he says basically, hey man, if they're willing to take our pieces of paper for their goods, services, and resources, who am I to stop them, right? And, this mindset bothers people who are very, very shallow thinkers and people who haven't really thought it through all the way. Because what ends up happening is this. Ultimately, when you are a net exporter, that means that your people are building things. They're in there twisting ties on Tootsie Pops. They're in there building cars, they're banging hubcaps on, they're doing whatever it is that they do. And then all of a sudden, the normal business pressures kick in. We need the best price. We need it quickly. We need it cheaply. You're competing with all these people. We need to keep pressing prices down. This is the way it works. And so when you're a net exporter, your employees, the people that work in your country, are subject to the pressures of an ever-growing pressure to lower prices, to make things cheaper. So that's your workers. Now all of a sudden, what's the thing they typically cut when it comes down to prices going down and sales going down and so on and so forth? It ends up directly impacting salaries. And now all of a sudden you're dealing in a situation where salaries are stuck and tied to this as well. It's just the one negative side to it, right? However, you're a net importer. That means you're bringing in other people's goods and services. People around, they're always looking around, They're trying to figure out whether or not this makes sense. And, hey, we don't want that, do we? Where's the jobs? The jobs have all gone to China, right? When you look around and you realize that doesn't really sound right, though, does it? Certain jobs may have gone to China. Certain jobs may have gone to Mexico. But not all jobs, right? So being that our government can spend money, right? It can spend money. When we're a net importer, our dollars are leaving the country. When we're a net exporter, dollars are coming in from outside the country. So you're getting these dollars from elsewhere and vice versa when you're an exporter. So ultimately, we should sit there, regardless of any feelings you may or may not have. Our government can offset that trade imbalance very, very, very easily by investing on domestic products, domestic projects, domestic initiatives with domestic employees. By sitting there funding infrastructure bills and the like, it doesn't really matter if we're creating the ties on a Tootsie Pop, does it? We can literally employ people in a new economy. I don't really care if manufacturing leaves the U.S. We would have tons of jobs in green energy if we decided to focus on that. I don't care about literally putting together plastic dolls or putting stamps on cans that a robot can do. These are the jobs. When you hear people talk about the robots coming, these are the ones. So to me, if the robots are going to take them anyway, say, let them go. Send them on over there. In the U.S., though, our government could spend to get every bridge right, every school right, rebuild every building, fix things, upgrade our entire backbone of our internet in the United States and change us from IPv4 to IPv6 overnight, make everything fiber optic, make everything high speed. I mean, really, really, really invest in high speed rail. Invest in all these things that we can't do if we're busy trying to be net exporters, pumping out cans of tuna. Instead, we could be doing these wonderful things. So when I see somebody take what we say and they don't really say it all, because I'm the kind of guy that gets pretty ticked off at that stuff, I get ticked off. But a lot of people are beginning to understand that we can have fantastic things. We could have tons of jobs in the medical profession with single payer. We could have tons of jobs in the education sector, both in trade schools and college. We could sit there and have tons of green energy jobs like that. Let the robot work go over there to China. Let the robot work go down to Mexico. Let the robot work go wherever you want it to go. I don't care. As a net importer, we have the ability to refocus our workforce to public purpose type jobs that makes our country truly great again. Put 100% of Americans back to work if they want. So the point is not whether it's good to have an export or an import nation. If you're a monetarily sovereign government, being a net importer is the ultimate place to be, in my opinion. But what if you're a country like Greece and you're stuck in the EU and the Eurozone, and now all of a sudden you're a net importer? Oh, Greece can't do what we can do, can they? They have to borrow that money from the ECB, okay? But in the United States, we don't have that problem. This is why the conspiracy theorists are so lethal to progress, because they peddle the debt and deficit myths that prevent us from spending on these public purpose programs. Again, I don't care if the money comes from friggin' old man tuna over there, or whether it comes from state capital, state money being put into the country by spending on projects. These initiatives I just raised could very easily be done. And then to make sure everybody's taken care of, the federal job guarantee. Why is this remotely controversial? Why are people incapable of knowledge, or at least making an attempt at gaining knowledge? When it comes down to it, in my opinion, not for every industry, but overall as a bulk, I think you have more policy space to take care of your nation, excuse me, when you are a net importer. And I think that the job types are more democratized, if you will. The people have more opportunities to select different types of work. The job guarantee being administered at a local level allows the local sensibilities to be instilled there. So why wouldn't we want to be a net importer? Why would you want to bring the jobs back that the robots are doing? Seriously, I mean, what kind of buffoonery is that? Think it through. Let's go ahead and deficit spend, as we always should when we're a net importer, as any country should when they're a net importer. Why not? Why? Because the Pete Peterson Foundation, the right-wingers, the libertarians, the Ron Pauls, and all the other wackadoos have convinced you that debt and deficits are awful. And then Obama joined in, and Hillary joined in, and Bubba Bill joined in, who wrecked the economy with his balanced budget. So when you ask, is it better to be a net importer or a net exporter, it doesn't really matter. I prefer to be a net importer, though, on most things overall, because it gives us the most policy space, and it allows us to trade our paper for their resources, goods, and services. Think about it. It's not something you have to come up with your full-blown, you have to deficit spend when there's, yep, exactly. Thank you, Ellis. So, Ellis talked a lot about the sectoral balances. and the current account balance. I mean, we have to deficit spend, which is my point. But we've convinced ourselves that it's not the right thing to do. We've convinced ourselves to let it go, to not do it, to be scared of deficits. When in reality, we can focus on our national interests if we send the robot work abroad. Stop fighting. Eugene V. Debs, good guy, put his poster up on the wall, but there is absolutely no reason to celebrate and worship what he's trying to do. A new future requires new thinking, which requires creativity and an open mind. And if you're stuck in old, nonsensical beliefs, conservative beliefs, okay, you progressives out there who claim all this stuff, it is very important to think about what the future really holds. And if you box yourself off and you don't pay attention, it's very, very easy to think that we got to bring the Industrial Revolution back to America in order for America to be great again. And literally nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing could be further from the truth. If you want America to truly be great, maybe for the first time ever, set the basement, get yourself a federal job guarantee, administer it at the state level, paid for at the federal level. Make sure that that job guarantee has single-payer health care built into it, Medicare for all, free college for all, trade school for all. Make sure that it has paid family and medical leave in it. You name it. Make that thing right. Make it so that the private sector has to spend more than the federal job guarantee to pull you out of it. Make sure that we upgrade our entire energy grid, diversify it so it doesn't have any single points of failure, fix our levees, our dams, our bridges, whatever. Make America green for the first time, or green again, as it were. Start instituting hemp. Hemp, 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 hemp. Become the hemp capital of the world. There's just so much we can do, and we're squandering it. Squandering it. All in pursuit of these little petty sidebar things. But to the original question about whether it's better to be a net importer or a net exporter, I think we can fairly certainly say that allowing certain jobs to go and deficit spending into the economy to ensure every single person is taken care of and has the freedom to tell the capitalists to go bang themselves. This is what it's all about, providing mobility, getting people out of their hellholes like Flint, Michigan. If they're not going to fix it, now you have mobility built in. Take advantage of it. So with that said, remember, you want to trade your paper dollars for people's goods, services, and resources, or do you want to sit there and produce them and get caught in the spiral of decreasing salaries, greater needs for production, layoffs, and all that other happy stuff? Use your head. Think it through. I'm Steve Grumbine. We're Real Progressives. Have a good night, everybody.